Good morning. It is 8:55 a.m. on August 26th. This is a special docket for the Oil Conservation Division. My name is Gregory Chikalian. I'm the hearing examiner. Today we have several technical examiners. We will have Mr. Andrew Fordyce for some of the cases, and we will have Mr. Tony Harris and Mr. Phil Getz for one of the cases. We are recording this via Teams, and we will be producing a artificial intelligent transcript today and for most of our future hearings, unless they are contested cases that require a court reporter. So all of that will be available publicly. Let's begin by calling 3R operating cases. They are joined together, 25321, 25323, and 25324. Entries, please.
Yes, Jackie McLean on behalf of 3R Operating, and we're actually just presenting 25321, and then we'll present 25323 and 25324 because they have different parties who have entered and have different interests in the cases.
At your convenience.
And there are entries of appearance.
Good morning, Mr. Examiner. Dina Bennett from Model Sperling on behalf of Cimarex Energy Co. of Colorado and Magnum Hunter.
Good morning.
I believe Civitas has also.
I see that. Do we have the representative for Civitas? Do you know who that is?
Yes, Gabrielle Gerhardt. Yes.
All right, Ms. Gerhardt, if you're with us, please let us know. Otherwise, we're going to proceed.
And they had withdrawn. They're not objecting, or
Perfect.
so.
So they did object and they filed a withdrawal?
That's correct.
All right, please go ahead.
Thank you. In case number 25321, 3R seeks an order pulling all uncommitted interest in the Wolfcamp Formation underlying an 800-acre, more or less, standard horizontal spacing unit comprised of the north half of sections 2 and 3 and the northeast quarter of section 4, Township 25 South, Range 26 East in Eddy County. And this unit will be dedicated to the Boudin 42 FedCom 701H well. 3R submitted exhibits in this case that include the land and geology exhibits and testimony of Brian Van Staveren and Brian Atwell, both of whom have previously testified as experts in their respective fields before the division. We also submitted notice testimony, which attaches the notice letter and affidavit of publication, both of which were done some time ago when these cases were first filed back in March. And we are planning on filing a set of amended exhibits because we need to remove Magnum Hunter as a pooled party to this case. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But with that, I ask that the division admit the exhibits submitted in case number 25321 and that the case be taken under advisement.
Thank you. I'm unable to get into the imaging system. And then if I restart my computer, it's going to do a full BIOS update. So it'll be out of commission for half an hour. So I can't do that. Regarding your Magnum Hunter exhibit, what number is it that needs to be revised?
It's exhibit A3.
A3?
Yes.
And who filed that exhibit?
I did. We did.
I don't mean it that way. Who's responsible for creating the exhibit?
Our landman.
Who is?
Brian Van Staveren.
And is he with us?
He should be on. Yes, I see him there.
Yes, sir.
And
All right, excellent. So I can't get to my exhibits. I have to ask you a couple of questions. Will you turn on your camera?
I am trying to do that right now. There we go.
Okay, I see you now. Will you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right. You are responsible for A3?
That is correct.
All right. And then Ms. McLean just announced that you're going to revise A3. Why is that?
We have struck a deal with Magnum Hunter, and they're no longer going to protest our pooling. and we're going to remove them because we're going to do a trade, acreage trade with them.
Okay. Any other changes to A3?
No, sir, that should be it.
All right. Okay, Mr. Fordyce, questions?
Yeah, I have a question for Mr. Van Staveren. I'm looking at your recapitulation on page 14.
Yes, sir.
What exhibit number is that?
That should be A3.
Thank you.
I'm having Miss Hardy pull them up because for some reason I cannot connect to the internet this morning.
Mr. Van Staveren, are there any parties on this list that 3R are seeking to pool?
In the recapitulation, yes, sir.
I would request that for completeness, we describe that you're showing the working interest owners here and highlight the ones that are being pooled in the customary fashion. And then maybe for completeness, under that, a table of the overrides that 3R is seeking to pool, just to complete this recapitulation and make it clear who 3R is seeking to pool.
Okay, we can do that.
I also have some corrections actually regarding the checklist on page 2. And this might be for Ms. McLean.
Yes.
So the first thing I noticed is the Well family says McMuffin, which does not appear to be correct. It looks like this is a Bowden well.
Yes, that's correct. That's the next set of cases. It must be a typo that stayed on the spreadsheet or the Excel.
Okay, the next thing I noticed is under formation and pool, the primary product is listed as oil. This is actually a gas pool. And the word gas is actually in the pool name. It's Purple Sage, semicolon, Wolf Camp, in parentheses, gas, and in brackets, the pool code 98220. And the next thing I noticed, the spacing unit, the size is described as 640 acres. And in this case, it should be closer to 800 acres, although there's some irregular sections in this spacing unit, but closer to 800 acres. And the building blocks in this case would not be a half section, would actually be the optional 160 acre building blocks. So there would be, in this case, 560 acre building blocks rather than 2.5 half sections, if that makes sense.
I do have a question about that. I thought that Purple Sage Wolf Camp was half section spacing. That's what it states in the order.
My understanding is that it has special pool rules with an optional 160 acre or 320 acre building blocks, but the spacing unit must contain 320 acres within 1/2 section somewhere in the completed interval. But they give you the option for the 160 acre building blocks for this case where you go not 2 miles, but 2.5. So it's, 560 acre building blocks.
Okay.
And then the rest of the stipulations still apply. It has to have 320 acres somewhere in a half section, somewhere in the completed interval.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. McLean, do you understand that?
Yeah, I do. I didn't, I guess.
I just want to make sure that you do understand.
Yes.
Mr. Fordyce?
Looking at my notes, and I think that is all the notes I have for this case.
All right, fantastic. So no further questions for any other witnesses?
No further questions.
All right, and Ms. Bennett, you're on. Do you have any questions?
Hi, sorry about that. No questions. I just would ask that the exhibits not be admitted until the pooled party list is corrected to remove Magnum Hunter as a pooled party.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Ms. McLean, how long will it take for you to have Exhibit A3 corrected and to update the checklist?
I can do that today. The client's already sent us a revised exhibit A.
Oh, good.
Well, now we have those additional with the highlighting the recapitulation, but I'm sure Mr. Van Severen, he's very quick, so we should be able to get it in today.
All right, will you continue this case to the September 11 docket to give Mr. Fordyce some time to review the corrections and the new page 2, et cetera?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, anything else, Miss Bennett?
Nothing else from me. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Mr. Fordyce?
Nothing else on this case.
All right, Mr. Fordyce, are you, and I do see Ms. Shaheen down here. Ms. Shaheen, do you have something about this case that you need to deal with?
No, I'm here for the next case.
Oh, wonderful. Mr. Fordyce, are you going to be the technical examiner on September 11?
I believe Mr. McClure is.
Okay, all right. So would you share your notes with him so you don't have to participate for this one case?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. All right, Ms. McLean, anything further?
Not in this case.
All right, thank you. Let me see if I can find my okay, we're going to move on to case number 2, Ms. McLean, 25323.
Yes, and we'd like to present 25323 and 25324 as consolidated cases.
Okay, thank you very much. And so I'll call both cases. Entries of appearance, please.
Yes, Jackie McLean on behalf of 3R Operating.
Thank you.
Sharon Shaheen on behalf of Flat Creek Resources.
Thank you.
Brielle Gerhold on behalf of Civitas Resources.
Okay, and Ms. Gerhold, you were not present for case 25321. We heard that case. It's coming back on September 11th, so if you need to deal with something, it will be back.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Any objections, Ms. Gerhold?
No objections.
Okay, and Ms. Shaheen?
No objections, and we have no objections to the amended exhibits. The only thing I would note for the record is that Flat Creek is confirming the division of interest that is reflected in the amended exhibit package.
And I can't see the amended exhibit packet. What can you tell me about the amended?
Yes,
exhibit
and
packet?
we filed amended exhibits in these cases to remove Civitas as a pooled party. So it was just changing that exhibit A3. Basically, we had fixed the issue that we had in the last case. But that was the only revisions to this.
Okay. Do you
So-
want to present these two cases?
Yes, I'd love to. In case numbers 25323 and 25324, 3R seeks an order pulling all uncommitted interests and the Wolf Camp formation in sections 34 and 35 of Township 24 South, Range 26 East in Eddy County. And the north half of sections 34 and 35 will be dedicated to the McMuffin 3435 FedCom 701H well, and the south half will be dedicated to the McMuffin 3435 FedCom 703H well. 3R submitted exhibits for these cases in a timely manner, but then we resubmitted earlier this week amended exhibit packets to remove Civitas as a pooled party. Again, the exhibits include land and geology exhibits and testimony of Brian Van Staveren and Brian Atwell. We submitted the notice testimony and exhibits, which show that the notice letter and affidavit of publication were again done earlier this year when the cases were originally filed. And with that, I ask that the division admit the exhibits submitted in case numbers 25323 and 25324 into the record and the cases be taken under advisement.
Thank you. Without objection. And I also forgot to admit the exhibits in 25321. So those are admitted without exception as well. Mr. Fordyce, questions in these two cases?
Yes, there's two items that we discussed in the previous case. The first being on the checklist where the primary product is listed as gas and a correction to, the pool name. That would be Purple Sage Wolf Camp Gas 98220. And the second item would be the recapitulation being resummarized and completed as discussed with Mr. Van Staveren for the previous case. That would apply to 323 and 324.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Fordyce. So, Mr. I don't see your name anymore. I think it was Van Staveren. Is it Van Staveren?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. And Ms. McLean, if it were just the correction to the word gas, I would just take it under advisement as soon as you submit that. But because we need a revised exhibit for the recapitulation, these cases need to be moved to September 11 for further review from Mr. Fordyce. And we'll hear them at the very beginning of that docket, Freya, if you don't mind. But it will be up to you to continue those cases to that docket, but we will get rid of those at that time. Anything further, Ms. McLean?
Nothing on these.
All right,
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're off the record in those three cases. Let's move on to Spur Energy Partners. This is number 4 on the docket, 25376. Entry of appearance, please.
Good morning, Mr. Examiner. Dana Hardy with Hardy McLean on behalf of Spur Energy Partners.
Good morning. I don't think there's any other parties entered.
There are not.
Okay, go right ahead.
Thank you. In this case, Spur seeks an order pooling uncommitted interest from approximately 3,935 feet to 5,110 feet measured depth, underlying a 320-acre, more or less, standard overlapping horizontal spacing unit comprised of the south half of Section 29, Township 17 South, Range 28 East in Eddy County. The unit will be dedicated to the Smithdale 29 FedCom wells. This unit overlaps with the spacing units for quite a few vertical wells that are identified in the application. Our exhibits include the self-affirmed statements of landman Marcus Wessner and geologist Matthew Van Wee. Mr. Van Wee has previously testified and been recognized as an expert, but Mr. Wessner has not, and we did provide a copy of his resume. Our notice information is provided in Exhibit C. Notice was timely sent by certified mail on May 9th of 2025 and was timely published on May 15th, 2025. So I would request that the division recognize Mr. Wessner as an expert, and I don't know if there are questions for him. I see him on the video. He's available. Okay, now I would request that the exhibits be admitted.
Without exception. Are admitted into evidence. Mr. Wessner, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I didn't hear you, sir. I think you're muted.
I do.
Okay, great. You can put your hand down. Would you state and spell your name for the record?
Marcus Wessner, Markus Wesner.
Okay, very good. And you're seeking to be qualified before this division in what field of expertise?
Land.
Land. Okay, very good. What education do you have that goes toward that expertise?
I obtained a Bachelor of Business Administration from Clarion University during the spring semester of 2008 and have since been working as a landman.
Okay. Sorry. Tell me more about your work experience.
Upon graduation, started off as a contract field landman, have since have worked both field and in-house roles, mineral surface business development, a little bit of 45Q related green energy stuff, and have been working with Spur since came on board as a contract landman in February of this year.
All right. Instead of me asking you a bunch of more questions, I'm going to see if I can find your CV. So give me a minute.
Okay.
And I can share it, Mr.
Would you please? I
Examiner.
have no access for
Let me
something.
just-
All of a sudden, this is something new. Perfect. Will you stop there?
Sure.
Mr. Wessner, did you draft this CV?
Yes.
Okay. And do you adopt it under oath?
Yes.
Okay. This division recognizes you as an expert in petroleum land matters. Ms. Hardy?
Thank you. And I would ask that the case be taken under advisement unless there are any questions.
Thank you. Mr. Fordyce?
Yeah, I have questions for the landman and the geologist. Mr. Wessner, I'm looking at Exhibit A4, specifically page 30 of 116 and starting again on page 32, but there appears to be 3 tracts of land. The exhibits show 2 state leases and 1 BLM lease, I believe.
Correct.
And I was just curious, I wonder if you could explain to me or give me a little more detail on why each tract was subdivided, like tract 1.1 and 1.2?
Yeah, that was a product of the title attorney's doings for the title review.
I'm sorry, Mr. Wessner, I didn't understand a word you said. Could you speak clearly?
Sorry. No, that was a product of our title attorney's review and how they subdivided the tracts for the opinion subject to prior contractual arrangements tied to those 3 leases.
Okay, so it has something to do with the title review.
Correct.
Is there a difference in the tract 1.1 and tract 1.2 that have the same state lease number then? Is there some significance that I'm missing, I guess is what I'm getting at.
For the most part, there is I don't believe that there is any, but there is different contractual storylines associated with how they broke it out in the title opinion.
Okay. I will accept that answer. I don't have any further questions for this witness. Thank you.
All right, let's get the geologist. Well, hold on 1 second. Ms. Hardy, do you have any follow-up?
I do not. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Ms. Hardy. Mr. Geologist, I don't see your name. I don't know what to call you.
It's Mr. Van
Matthew
Lee.
Van Lee. Yep.
All right. So I'm going to ask you to spell and state your name in just a moment. Would you raise your right hand, please? You swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Great. You can put your hand down. Please state and spell your name for the record.
Matthew Van Wee, Matthew Van, capital WIE.
Okay, and before Mr. Fordyce asks you any questions, have you been accepted as an expert by this division?
I have
In what field?
geology.
Okay, Mr. Fordyce?
Yeah, there's a log for a well, the Outlaw State number 12, API 30015-42562, that is referenced in the checklist, the application, and the landman and geologist statements. This log was referenced to describe vertical extent of pooling in the Blindberry. Is that log contained in these exhibits anywhere?
It is not, the cross section that's on exhibit B3 has several of the outlaw states, but it does not have the one that we use from a stratigraphic reference standpoint. But I can include that if necessary.
Yeah, if we could include that, since that's what we're referencing for vertical extent, I think that would be good.
Mr. Fordyce, before you continue, what exhibit number will that be, Mr. Van Wee?
I can put it on exhibit, update exhibit B3.
So B3 will be amended to show what?
The well log that we reference for the pooling depths included in the application.
All right, thank you. Mr. Fordyce, please continue.
I'm also understanding that in your statement, it says the Blindberry target is a member, is a target. That's the member of the Yeso formation that was completely bypassed in previously drilled vertical wells. And in the Outlaw State 12, we're talking about a vertical extent of 3935 to 5110. I think the closest thing would be what you're showing there for the Outlaw State 5 in Exhibit B3. So my question is, if you're targeting the Blindberry and that vertical extent, it appears that the vertical extent of pooling would extend 230 foot, roughly, approximately 235 foot deeper than the top of the tub member. So I was just wondering if I could get some explanation as to why targeting a couple hundred feet deeper than what the target is, or request for pooling there.
Yeah, I think that was based on some ownership differences down to 5110. We can restrict that if there's concern on pooling depths. But that's I believe that was kind of the thinking there, was just based on our preliminary title. That's as deep as it went, and we saw some differences below that depth, but we can restrict it from the Blindberry to the tub if need be.
Just curious, so is that it's differences in ownership? So is there a depth severance here or something?
I'm not entirely certain. Marcus, our landman, might be able to address that.
I believe it's an interest owned by Marathon, and it's below that depth is a different Marathon entity, and that was the reasoning behind using that log.
Mr. Wessner, if you're going to answer a question, please state your name, because the record will think that it was Mr. Van Wee who just answered that question. So for the record, that was Mr. Wessner who answered the question.
Correct.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Fordyce.
I was just mainly looking for an explanation for the extra depth beyond the top. I don't know that we need to necessarily restrict it further if there's been no objections to that. I was just looking for an explanation, but I would like to have included in the exhibits as discussed the referenced log that that is being defined for the vertical extent for the outlaw state number 12.
Yes, sir.
I don't have any further questions.
All right. Mr. Venn, you, at your direction, you created B3 exhibit?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, very good. And you understand what Mr. Fordyce needs?
Understood.
All right, excellent. Okay, if there's no more questions, Ms. Hardy, would you see that these exhibits get amended and move the case to September 11, and it will be one of the first cases we hear that day?
Yes,
All
thank
right,
you.
Thank you. All right, we're off the record in that case. And what I was thinking was, Mr. Fordyce, since you are the examiner for one other case, which I can't see, but I think it's 25480 Frontier Field. Why don't we hear that one? Are you the technical exhibiter and the technical examiner for that case?
Mr. Hearing Examiner, I believe we have case 25499 with
We do, but
BTA.
we do, but before going to that case, I was going to go to your case, number 6 on the docket. Is that your case?
No, and then to sort of wrap it up, 25480 is the Frontier Field Services UIC case for Mr. Harris and Mr. Getz.
Oh, okay. Then I have it backward in my head. Then you are the technical examiner for number 5 on the docket?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Then I'm going to call that case next. BTA Oil Producers 25499. Issue of appearance, please.
Jackie McLean on behalf of BTA.
Thank you.
And there's been no other entries of appearance.
Please proceed.
Thank you. In this case, BTA seeks to expand the limits of the Grandma Ridge Bone Springs West Pool, which is pool code 28432, to include all of sections 9 and 16, Township 22 South, Range 34 East, and Lee County. And I think a little background might be helpful as to why we're here, and that kind of justifies the reasoning why we're asking for this request. On November 9th, 2018, the New Mexico State Land Office approved a communitization agreement submitted by BTA for the Grandma A817169 Federal Com 4H well. And this agreement communitized the Bone Spring Formation underlying the west half, east half, and east half, west half of sections 9 and 16. And then a couple months after that, the OCD approved a 640-acre horizontal spacing unit for that same west half, east half, and east half, west half. A few years later, BTA was applying with the OCD for approval of another Grandma well spacing unit when it was discovered that the original Grandma well that was communitized back in 2018 actually produced from 2 pools, the Grandma Ridge Bone Springs West Pool and a Wildcat Bone Spring Pool. However, the OCD had placed the Grandma well within that Wildcat Bone Spring Pool. So the division requested that BTA come and seek to expand the Grandma Ridge Bone Spring West Pool because that was established through a division order. And they requested that it be extended to include the west half and the east half of sections 9 and 16. And expanding the pool in this manner will allow for the most efficient well development pattern and maximize administrative reporting and efficiency. We submitted exhibits for this case that include the land testimony and just attaching the application and proposed notice of Christine Ramos, who has been previously admitted to testify before the division as an expert in land matters. The geology testimony exhibits of Darren Dolezal, who has also been previously admitted as an expert in geology. And then my self-affirmed statement that includes a copy of the notice letter, which was sent on July 17th, 2025, and an affidavit of publication for July 22nd, 2025. So with that, unless there are questions, I ask that the exhibits be admitted into the record in case number 25499 and that the case be taken under advisement.
Thank you. Without exception, Mr. Fordyce.
Yeah, I have questions for the layman and the geologist.
Okay, and let's get them on the screen together. We'll swear them in. Okay, I see Ms. Ramos and Mr. Dolazal. Would you both raise your right hands, please? Would you both raise your right hands, please? Ms. Ramos, can you hear me?
Yes,
I
I
guess
can
you-
now. I apologize.
I guess you now can. Okay, do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Ramos, let's start with you. Would you state and spell your name?
Christine Ramos, Kristeen, Ramos, Ramos.
All right, thank you. And before we go to Mr. Dolazal, have you been admitted as an expert for this division?
I have
Okay, very good. In what field?
in petroleum land matters.
All right, very good. Mr. Dolazal, the same questions to you.
Yes, Mr. Examiner, my name is Darren Dolezal, spelled DarinDolezal.
And the question about your expertise?
I have been previously approved, yes, in the
What
matters
field?
of geology.
Okay, thank you. Is it just geology or petroleum geology?
Petroleum geology, sorry, yes.
All right, thank you. Okay, Mr. Fordyce, who do you want to speak to first?
Ms. Ramos,
Okay.
Yes, sir.
the division just wanted to clarify, or not clarify, but just make sure that the notice requirements were met for this case, that being the division designated operators of wells within the same formation as the pool end within 1 mile of the pool's outer boundary. Just confirmation that that notice requirement was met. I didn't research all of the operators in the area.
Yes, sir. To my knowledge, it has been.
Yes, and we got the list from BTA and we effected the notice as stated in the affidavit.
And so that was Ms. McLean speaking?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Because we don't have a court reporter, so if you don't announce yourself, no one's going to know who you are. Thank you. Mr. Fordyce?
Yeah, no further questions for Ms. Ramos. And for Mr. Dolezal, I think the division just wanted to clarify. I'm looking at exhibits B1 and B2. Exhibit B2 shows the cross section starting at the sort of north end of section 9 in the pink, which is the Wildcat pool, and then coming through the south on the west half of 9 and 16. I think the division just wanted some statement that if you look at the logs above in B1, that as you travel east through sections 9 and 16, that is it your testimony that the reservoir characteristics and those logs would be relatively consistent as you traveled east through sections 9 and 16. There would be no big differences, pinches, faults, anything that would become inconsistent as you traveled west through 9 and 16.
This is Darren Dolezal speaking. Yes, absolutely, 100%. 9 and 16 are very correlative. The east half of 9 and 16 is very correlative to the west half, even over to 10, 15, and then we have the crazy goats even to the east. This area is very consistent. When you look at those, when you look at the logs from the first sand through the wolf camp, there is not a lot of change in the sand section of the Bone Springs. So yeah, it is my opinion that the east half of sections 9 and 16 would be the same representative that I'm showing in the cross section as the west half. The reason we chose these logs in particular, they all have rasters with gamma ray and neutron density, and are no vertical logs that penetrate this in sections 9 and 16. So this was the best representative that I could do for the entire section.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dolezal. I have no further questions for this case.
Okay, very good. Can we take this case under advisement?
Yes, we can take the case under advisement.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Hardy, or Ms. McLean.
Thank you. We're the same.
Before we go to the last case for today, is there anything else from you either?
No.
No, sir.
All right, well, thank you very much. All right, I'm now going to call the last case for today on the docket. That is 25480 Frontier. Oh, I see. And it's your case as well.
It is.
I didn't realize that. And it's Frontier Field.
Correct. Mr. Examiner Dana Hardy with Hardy McLean on behalf of Frontier Field Services.
Are there any other parties?
There are not.
All right, please proceed.
Thank you. In this case, Frontier seeks authorization to inject treated acid gas from the Kings Landing gas plant into the proposed Kings Landing AGI number 1 and number 2 wells, which will be located in Section 15, Township 19 South, Range 31 East in Eddy County. These wells are underground injection control Class 2 wells. These vertical wells will inject treated acid gas into the Siluro-Devonian formations, including the 31, Riston, and Fusselman groups, plus the Montoya Formation, at depths of approximately 13,215 feet to 14,415 feet for the Kings Landing AGI number 1 well, and 13,240 feet to 14,440 feet for the Kings Landing AGI number 2 well. And although each well is designed to inject up to 20 million cubic feet per day of treated acid gas, Frontier is requesting a combined allowable maximum daily injection rate of 20 million MMCFs per day to be shared between the 2 wells. The proposed maximum surface injection pressure will be approximately 3,991 pounds PSIG. Frontier is planning to drill the Kings Landing AGI number 2 first and proposes to use it as the primary well, with the AGI 1 serving as a redundant well. Our exhibit packets include the self-affirmed statements of petroleum engineer Ramona Hovey, geologist Mitchell Dan, and reservoir engineer Braxton Reese. Ms. Hovey has previously testified before the division and been recognized as an expert in petroleum engineering. Mr. Dan and Mr. Reese have not previously testified before the division, and we have provided copies of their CVs. Ms. Hovey's testimony provides an overview of the C-108. As she explains, the 2 proposed wells will be developed to inject treated acid gas simultaneously. The redundancy of the wells will provide operational flexibility for the plant to continue injection up to the combined maximum daily rate in the event that one of the wells requires workover or servicing. Frontier intends to drill and complete the AGI number 2 first, and will collect and analyze the data obtained during the drilling, testing, and injection for that well to update and make any changes that are needed for the design of the number 1 well. And this design period and analysis is expected to take 12 to 18 months before commencing drilling operations for the number 1 well. As a result, Frontier requests that the division allow it to commence drilling the number 1 well 18 months after it commences injection into the number 2 well. Ms. Hovey discusses the area of review maps included in the C-108 and identifies the wells within 1 and 2 miles. There are no active water wells within 2 miles. Mr. Dan's testimony discusses the geological characteristics of the area and explains that the upper and lower confining layers will contain treated acid gas within the injection zone. He also conducted a fault slip analysis and determined that injection will not increase the risk of fault slip or induce seismicity. Mr. Dan further states that he did not find any evidence of open faults or other hydrologic connections between the injection zone and any underground sources of drinking water. Mr. Braxton Reese's testimony discusses reservoir characterization and plume modeling. He explains that the plumes will have a radius of approximately 0.6 miles and will not reach offset well bores or faults. The witnesses conclude that the wells will protect correlative rights and prevent waste and will not harm human health or the environment, including underground sources of drinking water. Our notice information is included in Exhibit C. Notice was timely sent to all affected parties by certified mail on July 7th, 2025, and was timely published on July 22nd, 2025. So I would ask that the witnesses who have not previously testified be qualified as experts and that our exhibits be admitted into the record. And Mr. Reese and Ms. Hovey are here in person and available to testify, and Mr. Dan is available on Teams.
All right, thank you. Without exception, let's get all three sworn in, then we'll deal with the expertise issue. So would the two witnesses that are here come on up to this witness booth here and turn on the microphone? Thank you. Okay, and I see Mr. Dan on the screen. Would you all raise your right hands, please? You swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with you. Is it, would you state and spell your name for the record and clearly into the microphone?
Yes, my name is Ramona Hovey, RAMONA HOVEY.
All right, and next you, sir.
My name is Braxton Reese, BRAXTONREESE.
Thank you. And Mr. Dan?
My name is Mitchell Dan, MITCHELLDAN.
Okay, great. And you're a little muted, Mr. Dan, so please get a little closer to the microphone. Ms. Hovey, you have been previously qualified as an expert before this division?
That is correct.
In what field of expertise?
Petroleum engineering.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Reese, I'll ask you the same question.
I have not been.
Let's start with you and what are you seeking to be qualified as an expert in?
Petroleum engineering.
Petroleum engineer?
Mhm.
So the same expertise as Ms. Hovey?
I specify in reservoir engineering, but.
All right, so reservoir engineering or petroleum engineering, which is it?
Reservoir engineering.
Reservoir engineering, okay. What education do you have that goes toward that degree?
I have a bachelor's degree in petroleum engineering from Texas Tech. And
when did you get it?
I got it in 2019.
Okay, try to be specific so I have some idea of what we're talking about.
Okay.
Okay, what did you do any more education after that?
No, sir.
Okay, so then who did you first give me some dates. Tell me what you did for different employers, what your title was, and we'll go that way.
So I got hired on straight out of tech year after I graduated onto Lundquist. And from there, I've been a junior engineer where I've worked on compositional reservoir software and done anything from class 2 AGIs to class 6 wells, modeling them and doing regulatory permits for them.
I'm just reading through what I see on the screen since I can't access anything on this computer. Did you draft this?
Yes, sir.
You adopt this under oath?
Yes, sir.
So you work as a junior reservoir engineer under who?
So my supervisor is a PE by the name of Nathaniel Byers. And then all of my class 6 and class 2 work is either under Steve Petit or Ramona Hovey.
You raise this so I can keep reading? Perfect, thank you. Have you testified before other regulatory bodies?
Yes, sir. I've testified in front of the Railroad Commission.
Okay. And have you been accepted as an expert in reservoir engineering before that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, this division recognized you as a reservoir engineer from here on in. You can stay there. Mr. Dan, let's get you on the screen and ask you the same type of questions. Can you pull up? Oh, thank you. Okay, so Mr. Dan, what are you seeking to be qualified in?
As an expert in petroleum geology.
Petroleum geologist, okay. What education do you have?
I have a Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Texas at Austin, received in 2014.
Okay.
And a Master of Science degree in petroleum geology from the University of Houston, received in 2017.
Okay. And what kind of work did you do that would qualify you as an expert as a petroleum geologist?
I was a subsurface workflow specialist for Chevron here in Houston for 4 years out of my undergrad. I then went on to work for Dunn Exploration, a small oil and gas exploration company operating in South Louisiana. I then started working for a Gulf Coast, Texas Gulf Coast shop called Hughes Legacy, where I was for 2 or 3 years. And most recently, for the last 3 years, I have worked for Lonnquist as a senior geologist, leading geologic site characterization projects and providing regulatory support for development of Class 1 through Class 6 applications.
And is Lonnquist were you contracted?
Yes,
you are, okay. Okay. And who contracted you for your opinion today?
Oh, I'm sorry, I may have misunderstood your question.
So is Lonnquist going to be operating this well?
No, it's my understanding is that Lonnquist is not going to be operating this well.
Who is?
Can I defer that to Ms. Hovey?
Well, Ms. Hovey's not on the witness stand right now, so you don't know who you're giving your opinion?
Oh, it's on behalf of Frontier Field Services.
That's what I'm asking you.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand the relationship between Lonnquist and Frontier Field, and now I think I understand. Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Dan. So from here on in, you are recognized as a petroleum geologist before this division. So Ms. Hardy, would you explain the relationship between Frontier Field and Lonnquist for me?
Sure. Frontier is the applicant and will be operating the well. Okay. Lonnquist is the group of consultants that are handling the well design and all of the matters here before the division.
Thank you very much. All right. All right. So we've admitted the evidence. We have qualified 2 experts. You ready to go to questioning?
Yes, thank you.
So is it Mr. Harris or Mr. Getz that's going to do the initial questioning?
I think I'll start first, Anthony
Go
Harris.
right ahead.
Okay, thank you. First question is for Ms. Hovey. If you go to page 6.
Oh, hold on, Mr. Harris. We got to get Ms. Hovey into the witness stand. So hold on a second.
Okay.
And since,
actually, it would be better if we could do it as a panel, because the questions they're not going to be, I don't have them lined out for one person at a time. So if we could do it as a panel, that'd be preferred.
It's a good idea. So Ms. Hovey and Mr. Reese, would you come on over and sit over here? You can share one microphone. That way we won't have feedback. And before you answer a question as a panel, please state your name, because we're not going to know who's answering the question otherwise. So just turn on one of the microphones, and it's flexible. It will go back and forth between you. The same thing for you, Mr. Dan. If you do field the question, say this is so-and-so speaking, and then give the answer. Mr. Harris, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. First question is from page 6 of 181, which I think Ms. Hardy is displaying on the screen there. That's the self-affirmed statement of Ms. Hovey. Paragraph 21. It states that prior to commencing injection, Frontier will complete a H2S contingency plan that will comply with all requirements of 1915-11. So just to clarify, that is something that will be a condition in the order as a result of this hearing. And do you have any estimate on when that contingency plan would be prepared?
I do not have an estimate at this time.
Okay. Next item is page 15 of
So Ms.
181.
Hovey, please give your name before you answer the question. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Harris.
Okay, if we can move to page 15. At the very first paragraph, it says Frontier Field Services is submitting to C108 to support their proposed gas treating plant at King's Landing. So do you have an estimate on the timing for this gas plant?
This is Ramona Hovey again. I do not have a defined time on their gas plant. I know they are actively working with BLM for permitting.
Okay. Thank you. If we could move to page 18, please. If we go to the third paragraph that starts out with to ensure wellbore integrity.
Yes, sir.
So it speaks to using corrosion resistant alloys for your tubing, for a portion of your tubing and a portion of your 7-inch production casing. And then the very last sentence in that paragraph, it states that the 4.5 injection tubing string will be installed and include a 300-foot section of G3 110,000 PSI material set at the base of the injection string and stung into the 4.5 by 7-inch permanent corrosion resistant alloy packer. I guess just as an understanding, why is it just the last 300 feet? Why not the entire tubing string? What's the philosophy behind that?
This is Ramona Hovey again. The injectant will be injected as a dry stream and therefore will not have the corrosive properties. The idea with the bottom 300 feet as in the result of a temporary shut-in or low flow, and there is influx of the saline, that combination would be more corrosive, and therefore that bottom 300 feet would protect against that corrosive nature of the combination.
Okay. And why 300 feet? What's the premise behind selecting 300 feet?
Generally, what we've seen is that our clients that have been installing that it has allowed for sufficient protection, and especially with the use of the corrosive cements on the casing and then and the corrosive packer.
Okay, but over time, as your reservoir pressure increases, couldn't that mixture of your corrosive fluids migrate farther up the tubing string? I mean, that is a possibility.
It is a possibility, but the packer should be preventing movement up. The corrosive resistant cement and casing should ensure confinement so that fluids are not moving up.
So then I guess that the packer, when the packer's set, there's going to be a polish bore receptacle sitting above that, and then your tubing string will sting in to that polish bore receptacle. Is that correct? Or
I believe
seal
that is
assembly?
correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So then I guess if necessary, that tubing string you could leave the packer behind and still pull that tubing string and replace it if necessary. Is that part of the philosophy behind not having the entire string corrosion resistant?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. So I guess just one more question in terms of the details on the packer. Would that packer include a nipple profile that you could set a a blanking plug or a locking mandrel to isolate the reservoir if you had to pull the tubing?
I believe that is correct.
Okay, that's one thing we will request, I guess, is that additional details on the packer, because if you look at page 10 from the C108, if we just go to page 10, item A4, it asks for details on the name, model, setting, depth of the packer used, or description of any other seal system or assembly use. So we'd want to see more details on that packer and ensure that it is corrosion resistant, whether it's nickel plated, and understand the corrosion resistant properties of the packer. And also whether or not the packer has a landing nipple to accommodate a blanking plug or a lock mandrel to isolate that reservoir just in case the tubing had to be replaced. Is that clear?
Yes, we can provide that.
Okay, thank you. And I guess while we're on that topic, so I guess basically we're considering that the upper section of this tubing string here, from surface down to the last 300 feet, that could, if necessary, effectively be an expendable tubing string that could be replaced if you've seen excessive corrosion or excessive wall loss and the well integrity was compromised?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. So I guess to follow on that, what sort of well integrity program do you have envisioned for this particular well or these wells?
Frontier is planning to run pressure, temperature gauges through the backside of the tubing to, and if there were any changes there, they also intend to run mechanical integrity testing as per schedule.
And that was Ramona answering that question.
Okay, and in keeping with that idea, in terms of corrosion, would you consider any wall loss? Will you perform any wall loss monitoring or casing inspection logs to check the casing thickness over time? Or, I mean, otherwise, if the mechanical integrity test, if it passed the pressure test for the mechanical integrity test, that doesn't give us any indication as to whether or not we have wall loss. It could still pass the test. So is there any sort of monitoring program that would be used to track wall loss over time so that you've got a predictive model that before your tubing fails, you can see that we've got 50% wall loss within 2 to 3 years, or whatever the case may be? Just as an example, you're seeing that you're having wall loss on your tubulars. You can plan a preventive maintenance program so that you can replace that tubing at a predefined date rather than waiting for the tubing to be compromised. Is that would that be part of your well integrity monitoring as well?
Yes, sir. I do believe that Frontier would definitely want to perform the proactive logging, casing inspection logs as needed.
Would you state your name, please?
I'm sorry, Ramona Hovey.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. If we could go to page 20. In this wellbore diagram, on the left side of the tubing string, you see you've got a TEC, tubing encapsulated line for the bottom hole gauge cable. I guess just to be clear here, how is that cable terminated at surface? Is there a penetration through the tubing hanger, or how does that cable reach the surface?
This is Ramona Hovey again. Yes, my understanding is that it would be connected through the wellhead to the SCADA system at the surface.
Okay, so but it would require a penetration through the tubing hanger. Otherwise, we've got a gauge cable hanging across your Christmas tree valves.
That's correct.
So then there would be a penetration through the tubing hanger.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. If we could go to page 25, please. Section Yeah, section 2.2.6.1, in terms of the proposed testing plan, says that a step rate test will be performed on one of the wells. Just to clarify, OCD would require a step rate test on both wells. Even though they're in close proximity, I mean, the reservoir properties could be different. You could have different properties for each well. So the injection profile, the injectivity properties could be different. So we would require a step rate test on both wells to characterize the fracture pressure and to ensure that we characterize and define the maximum wellhead pressure based on that frac pressure from the step rate test. Just to clarify, that would be a condition in the order, just to be clear. If we could go to page. Okay, go ahead, sorry.
That would be acceptable.
Okay, thank you. We go to page 26. In terms of the model inputs in table 6, reservoir pressure, it lists the reservoir pressure there at 7,915 psi. Is that the current reservoir pressure, or what is the anticipated initial reservoir pressure in this area?
This is Braxton Reese. That would be the bottom hole pressure during injection. So it wouldn't be the in situ conditions. In the model, we assume 0.465 psi per foot gradient.
Okay. So that, okay, because that is mentioned later on page 63, the pore pressure gradient of 0.465, but it was never defined exactly what the reservoir pressure was. So your initial reservoir pressure in that case, if we use 0.465 and we apply that gradient down to the top or to the open hole section, the top of the open hole interval at 13,215 feet, it would give us a reservoir pressure of about 6,145 psi. So are we saying that we'll have a pressure increase of 1,800 psi over the life of this well, or is this this is the pressure at, I guess from a nodal analysis, is the pressure at the bottom hole during injection, based on what you're saying? It's not the current reservoir pressure.
This is not the current. This is Braxton Reese. This is not the current reservoir pressure.
Okay. Thank you. If we go to page 27, please. So you've got a calculation there for your maximum allowable operating pressure. I guess, there was no mention in your program of future abandonment pressures. So what would be your future abandonment pressure based on your maximum allowable operating pressure? Did you understand the question, or do I need to repeat?
This is Braxton Reese. We did not look into the abandonment pressure for the maximum allowable operating pressure, but we can look into that for you if you want.
Yeah, that's important actually. I mean, if we just go back up to page 26, if we look at the model inputs on table 6, you see the specific gravity of the injectate at wellhead conditions. It's, ranges between 0.732 up to 0.877. So your density here is lighter than water. So over the lifetime of this well, they'll be pushing this H2S and CO2 fluids downhole. And then for the rest of eternity, those fluids are trying to come back to surface. Would you agree with that premise?
This is Braxton Reese. Yes, sir.
Okay, so in that note, it's very important to understand what the abandonment pressure would be, or the proposed abandonment pressure. And then one thing we'd want to see along those lines, considering the fact that, these fluids are, you can consider them energizer, you're dealing with a supercritical fluid with a density lower than the in situ fluids that surround it. So we'd want to see a plugging program for future plug and abandonment program, or at least a notional program as to how this well would be abandoned in the future. And whether or not, that the permanent packer obviously would have to be milled, and then what fluid densities are required to overcome the abandonment pressure in the reservoir, and also to ensure that those fluids remain in place and do not migrate to surface. So that's something we would request as part of the order, and it could probably be submitted with the H2S contingency program. Is there any concerns with that request or any questions?
This is Ramona Heavy. That is not a concern. We will provide that.
Okay, thank you. If we could go to page 38, please. And section 4.2.2 at the bottom. So this here, it's talking about the methodology for obtaining porosity and permeability estimates. So, and this, to set the context here, this is, my questioning here is going towards the reservoir simulation model and some of the inputs used. So it says here, well control in terms of geological control for sort of wells that penetrate deep enough to log the Devonian and Ordovician sections is very limited in and around the King's Landing site. So we got limited well data for wells penetrating through the injection interval. And one of the primary wells that you used is Chevron well 30-015-31615. So as we move further through, if we go to page 46. The very last paragraph says that Frontier may license and utilize 3D seismic before drilling the King's Landing AGI. Number one, to better define the structural interpretation and identify any other potential hazards that may exist. So I guess based upon that statement and the understanding that we got limited well data here, what would be the decision point for acquiring 3D seismic?
This is Mitchell Dan. I think the language could be revised to read Frontier intends to acquire and evaluate seismic data before drilling the first well.
And this is Ramona Heavy. Yes, we've confirmed with Frontier that they intend to run a seismic evaluation on this area prior to drilling.
Okay. Thank you. If we could go to page 59, please. Section 5.1, in terms of the reservoir model. Second paragraph states how the Petra software package was utilized, or it did utilize offset well logs to identify formation tops and the injection zone to create the structural contours. And then further, the faults were interpreted, fault interpretation was also performed in Petra. And then the following sentence states that the geological model of the Siluro-Devonian was determined from public literature in addition to analysis of offset well logs, 7 of which were used to delineate the geologic structure of the target formation. So you're using public literature here. I'm just wondering, so how many offset well logs were used? Was it just those 7 well logs?
Yeah, this is Mitchell Dan. So due to the limited well control, we leverage publicly available regional mapping and published literature to give us better control on the structure. The 7 wells were found within 25 miles of the King's Landing site. It penetrated deep enough to log the Siluro-Devonian section. And those were QC'd against published structure maps that had a lot greater control regionally, and they were found to be very, very well aligned within a foot or two of the formation top picks, giving us confidence that those published maps were perhaps the best available data source that we could use to provide as input for the reservoir simulation.
Okay, so you have, with consistency in the tops, I guess you got fairly good structural control on the model. How about, I mean, in terms of the rock fabric, your porosity, your permeability, how good a handle do you have on that? Was there much variability in porosity and permeability throughout those 7 wells?
So there is the most active. So the pre-Graybird unit number 14, the Chevron operated Greenwood pre-Graybird unit number 14, that was our porosity type log that was used. It had a bulk density curve throughout the entire injection interval. It was converted using a 2.87 grams per centimeter cubed matrix density for dolomite into density porosity. So we were able to take actual density porosity measurements through the entire injection interval in that one well, and then use that to use the porosities from that well to transform, to come up with permeability curves. And those porosities from that well were QC'd against published literature sources and were in line with what was observed in published literature.
Okay. Did the published literature, did it contain any information on core flood studies, or is there any information on core properties, or was there any core cut in this area?
Not super close to this area. There, so for the permeability, what we did, we took that all the porosity from that type log that's actually the nearest log that cuts through the entire Devonian section. So that's another key reason why there's emphasis was placed on that to obtain the porosity values. 3 data sources were all extremely consistent and in alignment with one another. Were used for the actual permeability transform. First, the Lucia transform was used, and then actual injectivity derived permeability, a study by Call, C-A-L-L-E, et al. 2024 was used to validate that. And additionally, there was porosity versus permeability cross plot published by Ruppel and Boltz in 1994 that used core data to characterize the Devonian. That was in Dollarhide Field, so in the Midland Basin.
Mr. Dan, would you please remember to state your name before you answer the question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. If we move down, just excuse me, staying on page 59 to section 5.1.1 in terms of the gridding parameters and the boundary conditions. So for the static model, it encompassed an area of approximately 90 square miles. Was that static model upscaled into the dynamic simulation model?
This is Braxton Reese. We upscaled it from the logs, but the geologic parameters come straight from the Graybird unit log. So this is what's typically called a layer cake model. So our permeability porosities and thicknesses are averaged across the log interval. So every 15 or so feet, where the top layer was being 5 feet thick.
15 feet in the vertical sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how about in the horizontal sense? I mean, does your dynamic model extend 90 square miles, or is it much smaller?
No, sir. The dynamic model is the exact same gridding as the static model. It is a 250 by 250 foot cell length. What is your name? This is Braxton Reese speaking. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay, so each grid block is 250 feet by 250 feet, and then you've got, on average, 15-foot thickness for a total of 61 layers. Is that correct?
This is Braxton Reese. Yes, sir.
Okay, so how much variability do you see in horizontally in those each block is 250 feet by 250 feet aerially. When you move from one block to the next, how much are all the blocks identical? I mean, you've got limited data here. How were those, each of those blocks in the lateral sense, not on a layer basis, in the vertical sense? I'm talking on an aerial basis. How are each of those grid blocks populated? Or are all the parameters just the same in each block?
This is Braxton Reese. Yes, sir. Each layer laterally is considered homogeneous, so it would have the same rock properties extending laterally.
Okay. So are you familiar with statistical approaches for populating simulation models? Using like a Monte Carlo approach or something equivalent? Are you familiar with those techniques, and was that possible here?
This is Braxton Reese. Yes, sir, I am familiar, but with the lack of any nearby well control, it would not have been possible.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. If we go to page 64, please. So in terms of the fracture pressure calculation, in terms of the confining intervals here, do you have any good data on what the confining stress may be and how good a barrier the confining intervals may be above and below the injection interval?
This is Braxton Reese speaking. For the upper and lower confinements, we looked at the upper would be a shale, which compared to dolomite of our injection formation should have a higher fracture pressure, be harder to frac. So what you're seeing here, especially in table 18, is a conservative approach to ensure that we don't frac the injection formation, which would therefore not fracture the upper and lower confinements.
Okay. Yeah, and we'll confirm that with step rate test also in terms of what the frac pressure is. But in terms of throughout the field life or throughout the history of this or the future of this well, as the reservoir pressure increases, just having a handle on what the frac gradient may be or the confining stress for those shale layers would be valuable. So would there be any, was there any consideration given to running sonic logs or a dipole sonic log to characterize the actual frac gradient in those shales, or would there be any casing shoes that would be set in that interval whereby you could do a leak off test as soon as you drill into the shale or just below it to confirm what the breakdown pressure may be in terms of a formation integrity test?
This is Ramona Hovey. We don't have any casing setting points necessarily in the upper confining zone, but I do believe that Frontier is planning to run a dipole sonic log, or would be willing to run that dipole sonic log in order to get that those values needed for the fracture gradient determination.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess offset, just as a suggestion, if you got any offset wells, even though they're limited, but if there's been any extended leak off test or formation integrity test, assuming there's been a casing string set in those shales, as soon as you drill through it or drill into the shale, it may be some good information from formation integrity or extended leak offs that could perhaps characterize the frac gradient for those confining intervals, just as a suggestion. If we go to page 65, please. So it talks about the model imposing 3 constraints on the well operations in terms of injection rates. I guess was there any, I may have asked this before, but was there any sensitivity performed on the size of the container? Because the model size extends out for 90 square miles. So was there any sensitivities performed to see how would the reservoir pressure behave if the container was truncated or much smaller? Was that sensitivity performed?
This is Braxton Reese. No, sir, we kept the static model the same size the entire time. What we did have was nearby faults to act as sealing to allow greater pressure increase in the model.
Okay, because if we look on page 66 at figure 22, yeah, so the blue line is our bottom hole pressure, and you can see it's very flat. And, you know, when you've got 90 square miles of reservoir to inject into, you'd kind of expect that. So would be worthwhile for Frontier to at least evaluate, or Lundquist to at least evaluate the sensitivity on if the container size was smaller, what would your reservoir pressure look like? And this is not a requirement necessarily for the order, but in terms of sensitivities, when you start injecting into this thing, obviously the injection pressures are going to tell you what's going on downhole and how big of an area you're connected to. But just as a sensitivity, if those faults that are near close to the well, if they are sealing, and if there's, you know, some baffling effects from the reservoir being broken up, almost like a shattered glass. If you take a rock and shatter a piece of glass, you know, there's some significant throws on those faults surrounding the wells or adjacent to those wells. So if you have any baffling effects, just that will probably be seen very shortly after you start injection. So just as something to consider, maybe having some sensitivities on the container size would be valuable to understand if those faults do impact the injectivity. You could identify that quickly and make plans accordingly for other contingent wells if necessary. Just a suggestion. On page 67, if we could go one page down, please. If we look at the first paragraph below figure 23 and the fourth sentence, it starts out by saying the edge of the plumes were delineated using a conservative gas saturation cutoff of 1%. How is that 1%? That's from the reservoir simulation model, is that correct?
This is Braxton Reese speaking. Yes, sir. That is taken from a reservoir simulation model.
Okay. But if we go back up to page 60, in table 15, we see that the residual gas saturation was initially 20%. So am I correct? Just trying to understand here. Are we saying that we're displacing gas from the pore space here and reducing the saturation from 20% down to 1? Am I interpreting that correctly?
This is Braxton Reese. No, sir. So the input for residual gas saturation is 20%. So 20% of the pore space will be trapping the acid gas. The 1% cutoff was to delineate the furthest edge of our plumes within the model, so you could get the AOR.
I'm not clear on the 1% again, because I thought it was worded as 1% residual gas. Sorry, a conservative gas saturation cutoff of 1%. So your original gas saturation is 20%. You then start injecting CO2 and H2S. And could you just clarify again, where does the 1% cutoff come from?
This is Braxton Reese speaking. So in the model, it assumes a 100% brine-filled reservoir. The residual gas saturation is the amount of pore space that can trap the CO2 before it continues on moving up dip or laterally across the reservoir. So the gas saturation is just a property of my model that was used to delineate the AOR. So the percentage of pore space occupied by acid gas.
So 1% is occupied by acid gas. Is that correct?
This is Ramona Hovey. That 1% would be at the edge of that plume. Yes, 1% of that pore space would be occupied at that point.
Okay, and then near the wellbore, how much what would the saturation look like near the wellbore?
This is Braxton Reese speaking. I don't have the precise value, but it'd be greater than the 1%. So as you get closer to the wellbore, you would see close to anything between 20 to 30% as it stays in the free phase and trapping phase of this plume.
So do you have any indication of what the irreducible water saturation would be, since the pore space is primarily saturated with water initially?
This is Braxton Reese speaking. No, sir, not off the top of my head.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Just one final observation on page 117. For the fault slip potential. Sorry, if we move down to page, excuse me, page 17 is where some of the fault slip potential results are summarized. I guess I would have to continue down to page 119. So on the left side in green, it's summarizing the fault slip potential for each fault segment from fault number 1 to fault number 34. It's very difficult to read what the fault slip potential is in this particular page. And if we go down to the following page on 120, those images are kind of grainy and difficult to read. So could we, as part of your supplemental package, if you could include just a summary table with a statement of what the fault slip potentials are, or at least a clearer image of what those fault slip potentials are, just so it's clear for the record.
This is Ramona Hovey. Yes, we can provide that table with the supplemental information.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's all of my questions. Thank you.
Mr. Getz?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, all. First item is regarding the facility that's going to be in support of these two wells, and I probably will address this to Ms. Hardy. At this point, the only thing we've got is supposition that a plant will be done. We've heard talk about BLM and applications. Historically, when we issue permits for these things, AGI wells, we would like to see at least something in writing as to what the plan is. And the reason we're asking, and what I'll ask you to do, is to provide us some sort of evidence that the plant is being permitted, proposed. In the case of other applicants, we've usually had prospectus, we've had testimony of management. So I would ask Ms. Hardy provide us with something to show us what the Frontiers Kings Landing gas plant looks like and when it's going to be online. Our concern here is that in the case of, say, the group of Red Hills, in the group with late, we had the Libby wells. We're running into this thing. We're looking at now 6 years since the initial permit was issued that we're going through this constant updating and extension. We would like to limit that, and we'd like to have it so that it is either concurrent with the approval of the facility, or at least have something in writing that shows that there is going to be a plan here. Right now, the only thing we have is just statements within various affirmations and no substantive presentation. So do you understand, Ms. Hardy?
Yes, I do. We can provide
Okay.
that.
Thank you. To go along with that, we have here a federal facility. We have these wells on federal mineral, and I assume federal surface. Is it understanding from Longquist that the APD process will be led by the Bureau of Land Management?
This is Ramona Hovey. yes, that process has begun with the BLM.
So you have applied for an APD with them and will be getting it through their shop. Okay, thank you. Next item, number 2. The well is located within what we call the 4-string casing area. Though the well design does propose the use of DB tools, it will be necessary to redesign this well. There will be a casing for the salt section, and there will be a casing for the reef for both wells. So we're going to send you back to the drawing board, and we will ask for you to provide us with a revised wellbore diagram for each well. That includes separate isolated casings for each of these intervals. We are past the Laguna submarine canyons. We're in an area that we are putting a lot of effort into protection of the habitat. And so to that point, there is no compromise. We've tried this before with DV tools. We've had 50-50 results. In this case, with acid gas, we do not wish to make any type of short effort once these wells are plugged and abandoned and for the operation of them. So do you understand that you will be designing these wellbore diagrams to meet that requirement?
This is Ramona Hovey. Yes, I understand.
Very good. Thank you. Next item. So in defining your injection interval, we've gone ahead and included the Montoya. We're making use of both Simpson and Ellenberger as the lower confining zone. Based on my experience in New Mexico and based upon my discussion with both folks at BEG and the New Mexico Bureau of Geology and with operations in Ellenberger, essentially the Ellenberger does not provide any type of isolation. It is so poorly structured, cut and fill, lithic aeronite, some sort of secondary dolomization, but by and large, it's an open pathway into the Precambrian. That leaves the Simpson as your lower confining without information. And that brings me to my question as to why did we include the Montoya in the injection interval? What's the basis for this?
This is Mitchell Dan speaking. The Montoya was included, although slightly older rock. It's continuous. It's part of the continuous carbonate sequence with similar rock properties from the 31 Riston formations above it. It does exhibit slightly tighter porosity. So from that sense, you would expect it to take less acid gas, but it is part of the overall sequence. And I'm confident in the Simpson's ability to provide that lower confinement.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if this fails to show up and we do have issues, do understand you will lose injection authority and you will be doing some sort of remedial action. In the past, and I'm understanding that saltwater disposal is a much different animal, and having gone through this process with other AGI operators, we try to maximize that distance from the Precambrian. The consideration for Frontier may be to take a look at how much of that Montoya you need when you have the interval of soil deboning available for you. So for the record, I would take a step back and see how much that really is necessary for your achievement of injection for these two wells. Okay. Next item. You folks have a permit from the state engineer's office for a domestic, well, actually domestic commercial well, water well, and currently was issued as benefit is the pot is a CP-2053. You were unable to find a well to sample, and understandably in this location. We will probably include the requirement that once this well is drilled, that you will provide a sample to us as a background, as we would for any well within the typical 1 mile area of review for the groundwater well. So be forewarned that with the drilling of the well, you will be required to provide that information. I think Mr. Harris covered most of my concerns with regards to, well, I do have one follow-up question for geologists, I would say. So what really gives you the understanding, or what is the information that supports the fact that these faults are sealing?
This is Mitchell Dance speaking. The faults sealing is short of having quality seismic data to evaluate and to add into the project. The conservative approach, in our opinion, is to assume the faults are sealing from a standpoint of fault slip potential and induced seismicity standpoint. So we wanted to model the most the worst case scenario if they were completely sealing, and make sure that we would not induce seismicity or cause these faults to slip.
You know, to counter that, so really what you have is an assumption that is based upon them being a fully sealing fault. So is that the approach we're taking?
To ensure that future hazards do not come up in regards to the acid gas injection operations. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we've had past cases where the concern is, and part of our effort is to ensure that development in this area and shallow formation, especially Wolfcamp and Bone Springs, are not impeded, especially with long-term operation of this well, that we don't have any vertical migration. And therefore, I would probably strenuously support the effort of Frontier to get some 3D seismic to get a level of comfort of knowing what are projected faults and what are real, and to get a better understanding of the faults and relationship since the Woodford, excuse me, is being used as a containment. Let's make sure it's a good cap. So that's that comment. Last question is for Miss Hardy. In your notice, and that would be page 161 of 181. You provided Raybaugh operating with a notice or a package, and the comment at that was in transit to next facility, arriving late. Have we followed up to see if it actually got delivered?
We printed this delivery report last week when we submitted the exhibits, so I can follow up and check on that. I don't know if there are any updates or not. We did also publish notice.
I know,
but I can find out.
Let's go ahead and find out. Just
Sure.
close it out.
Yes, happy to do that.
Okay, well then that is the list of things I wanted to ask about.
Thank you, Mr. Getz and Mr. Harris. Ms. Hardy, any follow-up or redirect to those questions at this time?
No, thank you.
Okay, so we're obviously coming back on the record. When do you want to come back?
I think we could provide the information that's been requested in time for the September 11th docket, if that's a possibility.
September 11 is, well, it's already over prescribed as it is. There's 100 and something cases. We're going to have to whittle that to closer to 50. And you already have four cases on that docket, which are going to bump some more cases. I don't think September 11 works for me. I don't know about Mr. Getz and Mr. Harris because they have to review all of this new information as well. Freya, when is the next docket, whether it be special docket or any docket, that we might put this on?
We have a September 16th docket. That's a
Okay.
special docket.
You said September 16?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Harris, Mr. Getz, if we put this as the first item on September 16, does that give you enough time to review the new data?
Yes, it will.
Okay. Okay, great. And that's what we'll do. So, well, of course, Ms. Hardy, it's your case. You'll have to move it yourself. So,
Yes, that's perfect.
we'll expect that it will be on September 16. We'll make it the first case that we hear that day. Did someone want to say something?
Yeah, Mr. Examiner, Tony Harris here. Just want to clarify that our preference at least from my preference, I won't speak for Mr. Getz, but to streamline the process, it's not necessary to submit a complete exhibit package again. Just we would request that, submit a supplemental package would be preferred. It's much cleaner,
Okay.
easier, and just address each of the items.
Okay.
And if necessary, we can review. Perhaps it's a good idea to review before we end off here, just so everybody's on the same page as what's being requested.
Okay. Do you want to go through a list of what you have?
Sure. From my side, on page 6 of 181, the H2S contingency plan, that's something that will be, it's not necessary certainly for the exhibit package, but it would be necessary before commencing injection, and it will be included as a condition of approval in the order. So I guess that's not really one for September 16th. The next item would be details on the packer, page 18. We would request some additional details on the packer, the specification sheet for the packer, whether or not it's the corrosion resistant properties of the packer, and whether or not it has a landing nipple to accommodate a blanking plug to isolate the lower section of the reservoir. The other item was in relation to the maximum allowable operating pressure, but more specifically in terms of future plugging and abandonment, considering the fact that these are low specific gravity fluids. They're going to try to migrate back to surface, so we'd want to see a plugging and abandonment program as to how this well would be plug and abandoned in the future in terms of milling the packer. It's a permanent packer, so that packer would have to be milled. What sort of fluid densities are going to be required to kill the well and overcome the hydrostatic pressures? What sort of cementing fluids will be used? That sort of detail as to how the plug and abandonment program would be performed. And finally would be a summary table illustrating or summarizing the fault slip potential of each of the fault slip potential simulations that were performed, since the images are grainy and difficult to see.
And Mr. Getz, did you want to provide a summary if there is one?
Yes, there is. There are 3 items on my list. The first item is a documentation of the plant and its proposed activities, where it's going to be, how it's going to be, what's being provided to BLM. So that documentation. The second item is the redesigned wellbore diagrams to include separate dedicated casings for the salt section and the Capitan Reef. And then the third item is the verification of delivery to Rayba of the notice.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And I have one clarifying question. This is Dana Hardy. For Mr. Harris, the information on the plugging and abandonment program, I think you'd mentioned earlier, could be provided with the H2S plan. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be provided immediately. It's down the road in the future, but we at least want a notional idea of how these wells would be plugged to ensure that the operators are focused on that, considering the toxic nature of these gases. You're dealing with H2S and CO2. So we just want to make sure that we've got a solid plugging and abandonment program in place for the future. So it should be, from my perspective, it should be suitable to include that with the H2S contingency, if necessary.
Thank you.
Okay, well, if that's all for Mr. Getz and Mr. Harris, then is there anything left for you, Ms. Hardy?
I don't believe so.
All right. Then we thank the witnesses for coming to Santa Fe, New Mexico to testify. And we will see you on the 16th of September as the first docket item.
Thank you. And thank you all for your time.
Thanks. We're off the record for today.
Thank you.